right. Welcome everybody. I hope you're doing awesome, having a great Thursday. Really happy to be here with you. We are going to do a great webinar today on vibe coding. And to get us started, I want to talk a little bit about a few of the things that we're going to cover and set some expectations, but also let you guys know how you can participate, things like that. So number one, I'm going to go through a deck. It's the easiest way for me to get a lot of thoughts out at once. And hopefully you find it useful. I mean, there's a lot of great information in it, and you're gaining something out of it. One thing I want to say to everybody is that there's going to be a couple of different types of people on this call. You probably are going to fit into one of these. Number one is a software developer who's been doing this for a while. I know there's a handful of you guys on here, and there may be some weeks there's a lot. You're going to be in the advanced category of like any of the technical stuff that we're doing related to vibe coding. So some of this stuff might be a little bit novice for you on the technical side, but some of the go-to-market stuff might be a little bit closer to what you're interested in, is my guess. There will be some of you that are brand new to vibe coding and maybe brand new to tech in general. And you're just, because vibe coding exists, you, for the first time, are getting to get in and actually play with this thing and see what you can, amazing kind of creativity can come out of your mind. So in that, I would say you're going to be introduced to a lot of ideas, probably in both the technical and the go-to-market categories. There are going to be a lot. They're going to be a lot to digest. Write your ideas down, though, your thoughts, because there is a great time to answer questions, and hopefully we create a conversation and kind of get used to it. Then I imagine there's a fair number of you who are not necessarily software developers, but you've been vibe coding, so you have a handle on like generally a lot of things that are related to software development, and you may have for the first time like taken something into a deeper realm with it. So so we're not like teaching you something new, but at the same time, you probably are running into areas where you have a lot of questions. That makes sense. Some of those people who are doing this probably have a lot of business experience. So even in the like go-to-market or any of that kind of stuff, the marketing elements, stuff that's actually more business oriented, I imagine you
excuse me, I could barely hear you. It's like a whisper.
Huh. Is that happening for everybody?
No, I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
Well, it is slow. Like it is very, very low volume.
Yeah, it is pretty low.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can fix this. Give me 1 second, okay? Let me see if I can help. So everybody hang tight for 1 second as I address these issues.
It's still low.
Yeah.
If you can,
it
sounds low. Can you turn it up? Is it possible?
Yeah. Is this better for you?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for catching that. I really appreciate it. I had turned it down for some reason and I did not realize that. So here we go. Great. So again, hopefully you heard enough of it, but again, there's three kind of high level categories of people here, although it's a mix of everyone, right? So I don't know, but you're either a software developer with advanced technical skills, or you're a kind of person who's been vibe coding for a little bit. So you have some technical skills that you've gained in that process, although you're not a developer. And then we have people who are brand new to this and just exploring it. So I'm going to try and cover all of you guys. Like that's really my goal here. But I know there's going to be lots of questions coming up. So if some of the things are more basic in the realm that you're really good at, just be patient and we will try and address everything. The last thing I'll say is I do the first part of this, I'm just going to do a deck. The second part of it, I'm going to just go through questions and answer questions. The best place to put those questions is in the chat. I try and go through as many as I can to answer as many as I can for you guys throughout this call. So that's a good spot to just get that stuff out. And I will literally go back through the chat and answer them as we go along. For those of you who have been to this before, you know that. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So the last thing, Rick, you can hear me fine now, right?
Yes, I can. No
Okay,
worries.
sweet. Thank you.
I don't know if everybody can, but you're
Yeah,
definitely. So
I can hear you perfectly now too.
Yay. Okay, cool. All right, here we go. So how vibe coders and founders become really effective at not just creating an app, but actually getting something to market. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'm Ryan. I have been doing software development since about 1998, 99. So I've been through every single version of the internet that feels like it's been out there in terms of actually professionally working in it. And I've been through it since I was a teenager, I guess, when it really first came out. That being said, I've taken two startups, two exits, one with the New York Times, one with Apple. So both were really amazing experiences, and they really kind of differed in the way that the type of technology I was working with at the time. But the first one was really focused a little more on the world combo of social and kind of database information that was to the New York Times, and then more on the media and the app, the entire app landscape side with Apple. I was one of the original people that was helping with Test Flight, getting Test Flight launched. Which, if you're creating a mobile app right now, you probably are experiencing that product right there, as well as Apple Analytics. We built the core of the analytics process of that. So those were a couple of the big things I've done as a career. And then I opened my company Wonderment Apps about 12 years ago, and we've worked on hundreds of projects. So I have faced almost everything you can imagine. I've been dealing with AI for the last 5-6 years. I'm very deep on it. And not just in the theoretical aspect, but actually implementing very advanced tools in it. So love to talk about it. At my current company, these are some of the companies we've been working with over the years. So it ranges from Fortune 500 all the way down to startups. I actually am not covering the startups on here. These are just bigger companies. But we really just do a whole wide range. So hopefully we can help you no matter where you're at and what your size you're thinking applies to you. But I imagine there's a lot of people here who are entrepreneurially creating something, doing something for the first time. These are a couple nice things that have been said about me. I mean, there's a variety of things, but I'm sure you can go check out my LinkedIn if you want to see more about me and kind of understand my background. So what I'm telling you is coming from a place of knowledge. And some of you, especially when we get into the very advanced technical side, I am a product first person with some technical skills, and then I work with tech teams. So that's kind of my main background. So the thing I'm here to talk about today is not necessarily theory of vibe coding, exactly how the theory of that stuff happens, or how you actually build things out. And I will cover that a certain amount, but this is not a technical education sorry, I'm putting things on do not disturb. This is not a technical education webinar. This is more about like, how do you actually kind of go from a vibe coded experience into something that's actually commercially marketable and usable. So there may be a number of you here that are here because you're hobbyists and you're just exploring the world of vibe coding. That's amazing. I hope you enjoy it. And a lot of this stuff that we're going to talk about is like actually moving into commercial territory. So if you are thinking about like how you want to monetize, how you want to build something to put it out, that's going to be more what's covered in this environment. So that is just the foundation of it. But we will be covering some technical things around it. Sorry, I'm just letting a few more people in. Okay. So just to start us off, let's kick in with some important things. The ball game for AI, or the ball game for tech in general, has changed. So it's now like at a place where we're going from the traditional software development environment, which if you weren't involved in that, it really hinged on being able to upfront imagine things very effectively, because you're going to go through a pretty expensive product development process to get there, and then you're going to build in tech. And we really had the concept of prototyping was more expensive historically, and now prototyping is very commoditized and affordable, which is absolutely amazing. It doesn't necessarily mean the tech is fully there yet, although it is coming along as well. But vibe coding is allowing more people to, on a conceptual level, get their prototypes into place, and also on a testing level, put them in front of people so they can actually see how they work and see if they actually function in a market. It doesn't mean they're fully commercially ready to be deployed, but they are in a place that historically you wouldn't have had. So this one game changes it from how do I get the thing built to how do I get it distributed. The conversation has really shifted. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that applies here and what you can do with it, even if you're working on your own. Just to give you some perspective, beyond running the agency, we as a company have built our own product, one that I hope we're going to get you guys involved with as well, because it's got a social component to it, tied to it. But we built and I show you this primarily because I want you to know that everything I'm telling you here, we apply every day and we do it every day on our end. So it is deep in our world. And we've been actually using AI development tools for quite a while. This particular tool leverages AI on a whole bunch of different levels. Obviously, we're doing vibe coding with it to build out some interface stuff, but we're also doing a lot of AI integrations into the different models, and we're building tools on top of those so that we can more effectively manage things. So we've kind of been using it at all different levels, and I'd love to share what we've learned and have you guys actually experience some of that. So you can see something that's gone from like a very basic kernel of an idea, and then using these tools to actually build it into a commercially viable product. So in this session, I'm going to try and share with you like what makes founders different that are thinking about this stuff in the new way of doing things versus kind of the historical way of doing things. So founders wear a lot of different hats. They, especially in the early days, you're covering many different things. One of them is getting a product into a place that people can engage. And if you're here, you have a software component to your product that's clear. Another thing that they're doing though is they're trying to imagine how we're going to go to market. So they're thinking about things like marketing, things about onboarding, things about sales. So like these kind of questions are also coming up for a founder. And then they're also thinking about, how do I support the customers? How do I answer questions and deal with all of these things that go into like just creating a relationship with the customers? And then finally, investment. You have to go get investment to keep building things no matter what you're doing, because no software project is a do it once and done. It's always evolving. It's always in a state of iteration. It is a part of the entire process. So if you weren't aware of that up till this point, I want to be super clear with you. You will keep developing this thing, and you are in a very fast moving arena. So you learning and continuing to try things out, test them and build again. This will be a part of your process to keep a product active. So here I want to introduce a couple of things. So where does vibe coding fit into the ecosystem of doing the creation of these things? How do you take vibe coded app from prototype to launch ready product? So most of you guys are probably in the prototyping stage. Some of you guys are in launch ready and you're actually going out to market and doing things. I know there's a variety. Why most AI built apps break down? So when real users start showing up. So and I think marketing websites are pretty straightforward. I don't think you run into a lot of issues with them until you hit like major scale on them. But applications, you can have a lot of breakdowns on them. And then a simple framework that helps you guys avoid expensive technical mistakes. Things to think about. On this call, I just want to ask you please to give your full attention on this, because I'd love to cover things and then have you thoughtfully ask questions around those things. And then just remember that nothing we're going to do here and nothing you're going to do on your app is a set it and forget it. This stuff literally is evolving constantly. I think you know that because you're dancing in this world. But in case you weren't aware, everything I say today could change next week. It's that fast. And it's the fastest mode of evolution of any kind of business I've ever seen by far. So it's great in some ways and it's challenging in others. And I'm sure we'll all experience some of that together. So before we jump into the kind of meat of this thing, I would love to ask you guys to open up chat. I saw some of you guys already introducing saying hi in there. That's amazing. But if you want, I would love for you to go into chat, and if you could just maybe just type your name and say on a rank of 1 to 10. I might ask you this if I call on you later and we're going through this. 1 being like, I know nothing. I'm just here like here to learn. Don't know anything. And 10 being, I have full mastery of software development. I don't even need vibe coding necessarily, but it is a helpful tool to make me faster, challenges me in certain areas. So if you want to go into chat and put that in there, it's really helpful. So if I communicate with you in the future, I can get an idea of where you're at. And obviously, as we're going through things, I'll just ask you like, hey, what's going on? No matter which version of these you're in the right place. We'll cover all of these. And if the questions are too complex, I'm happy to go and provide more straightforward versions of them. If the answers are not complex enough, ask me. Let's see what we can do. We can riff and see if people can follow us. So let's jump into the kind of more meat of it. This is a chart I put together a while ago. It's generally helpful for people to get a perspective as to what it is to launch a software development company. These software development company concept has been going on for quite a while. So as we're getting new tools like vibe coding, we're not necessarily completely changing the notion of software companies as a whole. Although there is a changing shape to them for sure. And one of the biggest changing shapes to software companies right now and over the next little bit will be deeper and deeper fragmentation. That means everyone's going to hold less employees because the bots are here. And then all those employees are going to go elsewhere. So what you're going to start to see is more and more fragmentation of like software developers, for instance, starting to own their own software companies. Because they have internal teams that can do it, and you're going to just run on smaller teams with more collaboration with the smaller teams tied to AI. So these teams will work with AI. This direction, it's going to move from what used to be giant enterprise companies to a lot of smaller companies. The good news is that puts you more in the driver's seat for what you want to create and do in the world and how you want to expand it. Bad news is there's more competition. And for these bigger companies that have longstanding IP, they're going to change their models in general because everything's going to shift and they're going to find a ton of competition in the market. So it's already interesting, and it's only going to get more and more interesting over the next little bit. So sit tight. I'm sure we can talk about some of the theories behind that. But I just more want to introduce that idea to you. It's related to the life cycle of a software company, though. So I want to kind of walk you through this really fast. The first part of a software company is in the concept stage, right? So I have an idea, or I talked to someone and they needed this problem solved. These things, and then there's a concept for like, oh, I could see how to technically fix that, or I could see how to handle it. Or if I'm creating something in the entertainment space, I have this cool idea that's going to hook people to like enjoy my thing, right? It goes from that concept stage, usually, which is 1 or 2 founders at that point, into some kind of initial product build. So if you have a dual founder partnership, one business, one tech, you might see that kind of move seamlessly between these two things. But a lot of times you might have a stronger business partner that's bringing in tech team or a small tech team to help build out that first thing. So they may give away less equity and pay for it in cash. Or you might have a very strong tech person who's like, yeah, I'm building this thing. I'm just doing it at night. And then, oh yeah, I got to sell it. I don't know how to do that, right? So they then figure out they're going to hire some sales teams, or they're going to hire the right kind of people, or maybe find a founding partner that's really good. So these two stages, they often coincide with one another. And these are the two that vibe coding is affecting the most by far right now. It's not the end, but it is by far the most. So you're able to build prototypes much faster. You're also able to put things into a semi-production ready state so that you can ultimately get to testing them. And then that is really stage 3, is like, how do we do initial audience acquisition in either a pilot or a beta stage? So just to give you guys some early examples of this, a pilot stage, probably if you're in a consumer market, is probably going to run you pilot/alpha, that's often called. You're probably going to try and acquire 1,000 customers to fit that. If you're in commercial market, if you're in a B2B market, you might be trying to acquire somewhere between 100 and 250 customers, somewhere in that. These are your early stage customers, early adopters, and you're going to see if you can really be a home run for them. And if they begin to share it out with the people that they know. And that's really kind of the goal, is you're going to work with them until you really have a good formula happening there. And then you go into a beta stage. That beta stage expands out more. You do less hand holding in the presentation of the product, and you actually just start putting it out there for more and more people to use, but you're still testing very specific things so you can get answers ultimately on scale. And then finally, you go into production ready, launch of the product, and you ideally know your answers. You've got your go-to-market plan really effectively honed, and you're putting it out there. In this stage 3, you're in the initial audience acquisition. You're just trying to get an idea of what your MVP, or for those of you who are just getting into this stuff, your minimum viable product, what that actually has going for it and what the audiences are responding to. And once you kind of have an idea of that, then you get into learning and building for scale. So this is where you kind of move into the beta, and the beta is going to expand out, and you're going to try and get as much learning as you can in order to get to scale at that point. So I'm going to take those first 500 users, I'm going to leverage what I learned there. I'm going to start applying it more and more. I'm going to do some ad spend. I'm going to do some really big marketing approaches, and then I'm going to try and scale that 500 to 10,000. See how that goes. So that 500 to 5,000. Once you feel really good about that, you're going to move into the stage 5. And stage 5 is where you're like, okay, let's put the money down. We know a formula. We could see it fits a market, and we want to just buy at the best price possible. So you're going to arbitrage price on on selling the app as much as possible. Or if you're in an app that's like building volume of users, you're going to figure out the best cost of acquisition for those users so that you can ultimately generate like UGC content, things like that. So, in one case, maybe your subscription, another case, maybe you are an entertainment thing that's making money on advertising. There's a bunch of different variations in between. Either case, you're ready to scale. Okay. And then in stage 6, you've gone to scale. You actually have a lot of users. These are a lot of bigger companies that we work with at this point. They're successful, the Zooms and the Slacks of the world and things like that. Like, these guys are at full scale. And they just are requiring kind of more of an ongoing maintenance experience. It doesn't necessarily mean they stop developing features, but they are not necessarily trying to completely break new ground with R&D, or if they are, they're breaking them off into side projects usually, or they're acquiring companies. So that is kind of, you're doing very well if you're at stage 6. And then ultimately stage 7, the Yahoos of the world, or there's a number of them that historic, the MySpaces, or different ones. They ultimately went into decline, and they were very successful for a while. And for whatever reason, they've started to shift into decline. All of these products ultimately go into decline. Very few of them don't. So you're going to see even companies like Google, as core products go into decline. Like, I would say search is probably heading into that thing right now because of AI. They knew this already, so they were already building DeepMind and thinking about how they were going to leverage this and how do they change their business model to deal with it, which is a multi-year issue. But that is stage 7, and I would say like Google search product has probably moved into decline, even though it'll still be heavily used. So let's go back to the vibe coding part of it. The vibe coding part of it, it changes the first two segments significantly, and currently it's changing maybe the second 2 segments decently, right? So these significantly have shifted because of vibe coding. These are impacted by vibe coding. And down here, you're beginning to see, okay, how could full-scale application development using agents and things like that start to have all of this come in? I think you will start to see over the next couple of years more and more, single person or multi-person companies that have scale. You're seeing the beginnings of them, the first handful of companies that are reaching major milestones in the amount of money spent, and they have 2-3 people involved in them. You can only do that with having the kind of bot support that they have. So vibe coding, though, as a tool, is really good at the rapid prototyping and MVPs. It's super good at that. And I'm sure anyone here who's been on this call, and you're here on this call, you've experienced that part of it. You like that part of it. You're enjoying it. You might be running into challenges, but for the most part, the concept of being able to put together a full-blown application or a website in a matter of minutes a couple of years ago didn't even exist. You would be doing things like wireframing. You would do things like pass that off to a designer, and you got a whole variety of things that like made this entire part of the process extremely expensive. It also is great for solo exploration and hobby projects and personal R&D, things that you're just like, I'm going to make this for my family because I can, you know what I mean? Like, and you can build a cool thing there. So it's a really cool tool for it because it doesn't have volume of people involved in it. It's also really good at creating speed and momentum on an idea. So if you're ready to do that, and I'll talk about momentum a lot in this, because momentum in the world of creating and financing tech is one of the most important concepts. So once you begin momentum, you want to keep momentum up. So you have kind of a little secret here is in the vibe coding space, it's kind of shifted because traditionally momentum would have started really actively at the concept stage. So like once you start investing in concept, you're basically driving momentum to kind of run through the entire process of moving through concept into design, into technical architecture, into front-end software development and back-end software development, all the way through quality assurance, and then finally into launch. Like these processes, you want momentum all the way through this stuff to launch a product. The interesting thing with vibe coding, though, is it doesn't necessarily start there anymore because everybody can do it. And you can come up with lots of ideas. So it's less about like putting the investment down on that part of it. And it's more about the part where you start really involving other people. And that part of it, and other people could be customers, other people could be other developers, other people could be marketers, could be different, whatever it is. The momentum really begins there. And then it's really helping with front-end design. So I can go from very kind of basic concepts that I was imagining in my head that I might have to pencil out before, to now I can actually bring something to life in a matter of minutes and show what was in my mind. And even I'm getting good enough to get it to be exactly what I was looking for. So even vibe coding as a whole, a year ago, it was more challenged at this. It's getting so much better now. I mean, you can put stuff together super fast. So this part is commoditized. I mean, it's really good that it's there, but it's commoditized as value. So that's something we'll talk about and you got to think about as you're going into some of these things. What vibe coding's still probably not great at, and maybe some of you are doing better at some of these things than others, but in general, complex backend logic and scaling, especially for people who don't know what they're doing. Software developers, I'll take you out of a few of these right now because obviously you can jump in and do a lot with like the cursors of the world and like and even Claude Code. You can get into the code and work with it, but actually setting up the scalable infrastructures, you probably know how to do at least part of that. A lot of you probably know how to do a lot of it. So for you, this is a little less. For the average person, though, who's coming into vibe coding with no software development experience, there's still a lot going on the back end in these things, which we'll cover some of those that you're going to have to deal with as you start to put your product into a development state. Maintaining architectural quality, it's still a little bit challenged at that. You'll see it changes things on the fly. You don't really know why. It's kind of opaque in a lot of areas. And again, if you aren't fluent at reading code, it might be a little more challenging. If you're not really understanding the choices you're making and the types of languages you're developing in, things like that, you also might be running into challenges. Security and compliance, this is a big one. This is not great at it, and it's probably not going to protect you very well. So especially if you're working with really high value, or if you're working with any kind of content that requires high levels of protection, including things like health, like EHR type stuff, or legal, or things that like people make a decision on, and if it recommends the wrong decision, then something bad happens. These are all areas where you want to go beyond vibe coding here, to where you're not like necessarily dependent on the AI to give you all of that. You really want some legitimate professional help and extra set of eyes on it. We'll talk about that. And then user stages and variable flows. So it does a good job of saying, hey, here's a version. But it doesn't always do a good job of saying, actually, the truth about your customers is you have a new customer that needs you have to understand them from an onboarding perspective and how they actually conceptually come into the product to you have a user that's used it a handful of times, are getting used to it. So they're in the training phase of learning the product. And then you have a user they're engaged in it. They've been using it. They know how it works. They like it. And then you've got the very advanced champions who are rock stars in it and are going to recommend to a lot of different people. All 4 of these require assessment. At the very least, you need to look at the new user versus the existing user. So anytime you're vibe coding, you've got to ask for those questions as you go through it. The vibe coding tools in general, they're decent at thinking about it at points if you set them up the right way, but a lot of you probably may not even know that you need to do that. So problem number 1 is with the vibe coding, big problem is it's just prototype thinking, which kind of ties to what I was just saying. Like you're just getting the prototype out and you're like, this is really cool. Does this look good? Does this feel good? Is there interest from my customer? Is there interest from my user? Like, I can, on a prototype level, they're like, oh yeah, this is great. I like this, blah, 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 because I know the industry and I think this, but it doesn't necessarily get you to, this is a usable product that covers all of the different avatars that you're going to have across the board. This prototype thinking can often create hidden technical debt. So you start making decisions. So what that means basically is you start making decisions over here. Oh, and then you got to address that decision. Oh, this thing messed up. I do that over here. Where you're starting to add code on top of that. You're starting to add application decisions on top of it. All those things start to add up. So the more you add on to it, the more it complicates everything in between. And the AI gets not so great at being able to untangle the very tricky web that you've put together unwittingly. And sometimes you have to actually go back to a much earlier version. You lose a lot of time and effort, and it can be really challenging. And these are things that like human software developers think about quite a bit as they're building things. Problem number 2 is endless refinement loops. You can easily get stuck in one concept and just keep refining and refining and refining until you get that right, because it never quite gets it right for you. And maybe you've experienced this. I know I've experienced it where I'm like, I wish you could just, okay, I can't type in the right words anymore. Can you just read my mind? You may have gone through some of that. I'm imagining most people here do. Obviously, the more you prompt, the better it gets, but it's really easy to get stuck in just trying to refine these things and ultimately impact your momentum. So again, it's kind of nice during these early stages because the momentum's not quite as impacted, but as you move past that, the refinement loops can become really tricky where you're just trying to solve a problem over and over again with them. Next problem is you end up trying to do everything alone. So you become the entire thing. Now, for a tech person, a software developer, that's not necessarily bad. That's actually pretty good, which is why I think you'll see with a lot of these solopreneur companies that are coming out, they are probably tech founders that are going it on their own because they know they can see the entire landscape, and they've been training it for years. I think for everybody else, I think you're still in a place where you're going to have to get support at some level or another on the technical side. And even the tech founders, I think you're probably going to have to get some support on the GTM side. Although AI is pretty good, it can help in that too. And trust me, I've done extensive amounts of work with AI in this, and I still need help. So I think in all of these things, it's kind of going from like, I have to hire every single position of my tech company to do this thing to I need to know good people in these areas that I can leverage when the time comes that I need to leverage. And how do I get my kind of portfolio of connections together? And if you start thinking about it a little more like that, then I've got to staff a company super big right out of the gate. That's a great way to perceive it. However, having to work a lot on your own, and especially in these early stages, being responsible for the answer, that can create a lot of pressure and it can be challenging for people. So I think if you are running into some of the pressures around that and some of the challenges, then you are not alone. Like I think this is more and more and more as it's just you and the bot, like you're going to feel that because you're like, it can give me some answers and then I'm still like not getting exactly the right kind of thing, or it's just too agreeable. Like, how do I know to trust it? That's actually a big deal. Which, by the way, you should be asking if you aren't. So this, to me, this creates this kind of like life cycle that is kind of dangerous and you got to be careful with, which is you have an idea, you vibe code the prototype, you end up in technical confusion pretty quickly. Software developers exempt from this. You end up rebuilding, and then you end up just more and more prompting, and then you kind of get lost in the process. I've even on these webinars that I've been doing for a little bit now, I'm talking to people that have spent 6 months vibe coding something, which to me, I'm like, I would spend, 6 hours. But I could understand why, because you can end up in these loops that are really, really challenging. And if I didn't have the kind of knowledge I have, I can imagine it would be a lot longer and more challenging. This will get better. This is probably already getting better. That being said, it will still land on you to handle some of this as the human in the loop. So what are some hacks that you might be able to think about in terms of your vibe code world? Number one, hack number one is that whatever you're putting in, it's going to come out kind of similar because the system's so agreeable. So if you're a software developer and you're using vibe code, like, guess what? You're putting in good stuff. You know exactly what you're putting in, and you're gonna get really good stuff out. If you aren't, and you start putting in something and you don't really know what you're getting, then you might be looping in more and more garbage. So you have to be really careful with that. That's where like having a little bit of support can actually make sure, just checks, make sure that like what you're building and recommending is actually right, especially if you're working with sensitive data. So the hack here is plan your vision ahead of AI. Don't, or if you've already, most people here on this call, if you're already in AI and in the vibe coding environment, could you go back, put it to bed for a minute and actually plan the vision if you didn't already and you just started creating? And by planning the vision, there's lots of variations of that, but I do think that the vision's got to be planned based on your product and your ICP. So ICP meaning your avatar, your user avatar. This, if you haven't done that part of it, think about like, this is who I want to sell it to or who I want to use it. And this is exactly how I want to plan for them to use it. That's what I'm talking about. So it's really a vision for how they benefit from engaging with your product. Number two, think UI UX first, which most of you probably are already doing it. My one tweak of a recommendation here is I know all of you want to jump into the app itself. I would suggest even taking that last concept I just introduced and using your vibe code tool to create a marketing page for it if you haven't already. So if you're obviously if you're already in a launch stage and you're moving towards this stuff, you've thought about this. But if you're just starting to develop or you're about to develop a new idea pretty soon, create the marketing page first. It's going to answer a ton of questions for you around what you should be creating. Because if you can't speak in the language of the person that you're trying to actually put this in front of to help, or you put this in front of to entertain, then you're probably building the wrong thing. So you really need to, I always suggest to people, I've done this for years, but it's especially now, given how easy it is, create a really robust marketing page and go through the process of like, oh, okay, this idea, I actually would have to pre-sell versus building it and then doing it. If you go through that, by the time you get into the vibe code, you already have a ton of answers. You already know what you got to go through in it. So if you're kind of early stage, maybe stop and go back and do that. If you're late stage and you're doing, well, never mind, just keep going, keep rolling. And if you haven't started, start here. It's a good spot. Master your repositories. One of the big questions that comes out of vibe coding is how do I get the code from one place to another? For developers, they know this, but like for those of you who are not, places like GitHub, they will allow you to manage the actual code itself so that you can move it cross-functionally across different platforms. You're not going to be locked in any given vibe code platform because a lot of people are jumping them. I tried Lovable first, and then I ended up going to Replit, and then I ended up in Cursor, and now I'm just using Claude Code. All those moves take time and effort, but if you're using a single repository, they can actually move through them pretty quickly. So learn and understand how repositories work, and make sure that you're beginning to use those in your vibe coding process. Pick smart tech stacks. And what I say by that is you want to remember that you always know that you're going to have other humans come into this no matter what. No matter whatever end you're on. So if you think about the tech stacks that most developers are working in, there's very popular tech stacks like React, for instance, right? Very popular tech stack. There's a lot of developers working in that platform. There's very kind of new up and coming stacks that I think are great for developers because they're going to figure it out anyway and they want to do it. But if you're not a developer, you might want to pick things that are just very well-known, stable, and ask AI, what are the most used front end software development languages, and then what are the most used back end infrastructure pieces that we think about. But how you make those decisions early on, they could potentially impact how easy it is to bring on, or how easy it is to find people to bring on assistance and help as you get into the more complex parts of it. So just last thing on that one. If you've already picked your stacks and you're already developing in those, go learn what they are and get an idea of how much help is out there available to it. I think most of you should be in pretty good shape, but there may be some random stacks that are selected that you might not have that many developers that do it out there, and it could get expensive. Instruction templates. Yeah, so create full-blown instruction breakdowns, not necessarily on the technical side of things, but on the expectations of how the app should work. So if you created your marketing website and you know how you want to sell it, you know the basic rules of what's going to work in the market. Take that now and translate that into some kind of an instruction template for how the game is supposed to be played, right? If this was a board game, you open the game and you got a set of rules. Those set of rules apply to your app as well, no matter what it is. Take the time to write out the rules. And you have AI to help you, so it's not even going to take you that long. However, you got to think about the nooks and crannies. It's really important. So do your rules for how the app is supposed to work. Do they have any open holes in them? And if you find them, you don't necessarily have to answer them in that moment, but you know you have to address them at some point. Can you write out the rules to your game? That's really important. AI, if you can, and you get AI in the loop with that, then you're going to do very well. Make sure your prompts are detailed. Get good at grafting. So I'm sure a lot of you are rock stars at this point, so I'm probably preaching the choir, but there's a number of you that maybe are just kind of like quickly writing prompts and hoping they come out, and then they come out and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'd take that, and I write another one. There's a little more craft to it than that, and the prompts are a communication tool ultimately, right? So get good at that communication tool. That is the central piece of what you're doing in vibe coding, and make sure that when you communicate, it's understandable, and it would be understandable to a developer if they read it, and it's understandable to the AI. So if you have a combination of a marketing website, the instruction templates, and thoughtful prompts, you can get very, very good results. Also, similarly in this range, detailed yet concise. So don't overdo it. Like, so prompts, 3 pages long, it opens up the possibility of hallucination like crazy. So you figure out, how do you take that big idea, chunk it up appropriately, so you're concise but you're detailed. Okay, I know what I'm looking for, but I'm going to be concise. And if you get good at that combination of these two things, you actually get results super fast and very effectively. I'm sure there's some people that are rock stars on it. Always code review. So especially once you get into like starting to release things and put things out, I would say it's probably a good idea at that point to make sure that you have someone on the development side who can take a look at what you're doing. At the very minimum, that if you're working over here in Replit, and then you're like, I think I'm going to need a code review, but I can't afford a full developer to do that right now, at least go talk to Claude. Say, Claude, I need you to code review my thing. This is where the repositories come in, right? Claude's like, okay, great. Let me go take a look. I'll take it. And I see this and this and this and this. The other platform giving you feedback on the first platform is extremely helpful. Like these two, they're actually working. These agents are working separate from one another, and so you're getting good code review in there. Then you might want to bring a human in at some point and have them check all of it, because it's worthwhile having a good human to check it, and that way you kind of look at working with software developers as much as like guideposts as like actually doing the hardcore coding, and you develop those kind of relationships that are more consulting oriented. But I think that they'll be worth it. You might have friends that do it who are willing to donate some time, maybe, or just hire someone and just have that be a check that you have. And then once your AI is very consistent, then you can lower that over the course of time. Last thing I'll say here, sorry. If you're working with sensitive information, you must involve another human. Do not trust AI. In this same category here too, security and errors, like the AIs, the good news is that like AIs can check AIs and they're going to catch a vast amount of things. And I want to say this too, you have to make sure both AIs are trained. So you might like have your developer trained really well and it knows your vision, it knows the rules, it knows all these things, but you failed to give all that information to the code review AI. And the code review AI comes in and it's checking for all these things that probably don't even matter or may not matter, or they don't even, it gives advice that doesn't even make sense to what you're trying to do. And that becomes very frustrating. You're like, I don't know why this is happening. That if both have to be working from the same playing field of understanding, not just the same code base, but the same playing field of understanding. So contextual perspective across every AI you bring into the picture is vital. Guess what? If you bring a human developer in, they're going to ask for the same thing, contextual understanding of what the heck you're trying to do. If you organize that stuff very well together, it's really easy to move between all of these things, and it puts you in a position of true expertise as to what you're trying to do. Be concise. So again, like the best thing you can do is to avoid these doom loops. So doom loops are usually going to keep cycling around these things, and you ultimately are not getting the results you want ever. So being concise is going to help you get to those spots versus just broadly like putting stuff out there and then hoping the magic happens. Maybe you get lucky, maybe you don't. I don't know. But being concise starts at the beginning when you're conceiving of the idea. Can you be concise in how you want the idea to be used within the market? Can you be concise in the way that you want to test smaller groups of the market so they come in and do it? Can you be concise in the way that you're communicating with AI to get what you need in the vibe coding environments? So the more concise you are throughout these processes, the AI contextually understands it, the AI code reviewer understands it, the QA AI that you develop understands it, and or the teams that you bring in of humans who are going to solve these problems for you. Whichever version, everyone's working from the same place. The language is concise, it's clear, the rules are laid out well, and then you have something where you, the founder, control the context. And that's really the key to the whole thing in the long run. So what does it take to launch an app? It takes quite a bit, as it turns out. Number one, on the product side, I put this together. We've not only have we developed over the course of the time that we've been running Wonderment, which is the parent company to Vibe Code Sherpa, but like we've been doing diligence for years too. So not only do we build things, but we assess things. And in those assessments, we're looking at what other developers have done, and it's really no different here. You're ultimately assessing what AI is doing if you really understand how to assess these things. So in those diligence, we built diligence systems that like we're informing people like VCs or people like major private equity firms, things like that, who are maybe in the process of acquiring or they're going to invest in something. They're looking at this stuff. These are all the components. They're thinking about all of these components. So number one, on the product side, so there's product and there's tech, and the product side, actually, technically, there's user acquisition, there's product, there's tech. Okay. And the user acquisition side is marketing. How do we get lead gen in? How do we, get people through the door? But the tech really starts more on the product side, which is the use of the product, the UI UX, the way that the product has retention, which is the product development's kind of core thing. So user acquisitions focused on acquiring customers, products focused on retaining customers. So like so you want to keep them in that cycle, and you want to make sure the product's valuable enough that they really want to keep using it. And then you got tech. Tech is building the components. It's making the whole thing come to life, and it's solving a lot of the more challenging R&D problems that have to happen in there. And these three things ultimately need to work in relationship with one another, with product kind of sitting in the core center of it usually. Although you are starting to see, and I'm not surprised by this, even in my partnership with my very technical partner, more and more he's like the product guy. Like he is like, the tech people are like, okay, oh wow, this is what it's like to be a product person. Okay, like wait, hold on, because you don't have to sit and do the actual coding over and over again. So in that product market fit, did you create something that ultimately makes sense to a market or to a section of the market? And is there a fit that just requires them to like be like, I got to use this product that makes sense, right? So you're looking at initial strategies and measurements on those. You're also assessing business cost models. I'm going to build this thing, especially in the early days, we're going to invest some money in it. Can I make that money back? If once we get into the actual like sales of this thing and we start, whether we're selling subscriptions or we're selling tokens or we're selling ad space, whatever the thing is, it does that intelligently match back into not only handling my my basic overhead that I'm going to have on an ongoing basis, but also my initial CapEx spend that I spent. So my initial capital spend that I had to put into it. So you're trying to balance all of these things. Do you have a model that's thinking about those things together? It's another place to use AI, so you can actually get some good foundational stuff. And it's another place you want to have an expert check AI's perspective. So if you're in the early stages of doing it, and especially if you are working with, starting to work with any kind of investors, like these things are going to have to be worked out a little bit. Monetization. Do you have a clear understanding of how you ultimately monetize this thing? Maybe it's an entertainment app. It's very straightforward. We're going to sell ads. Like we just need volumes of users. But even those like have different layers of monetization capabilities. Or maybe it's a very complex subscription scheme that has different layers to it and things like that. That makes the most sense because you're guiding people through a step process of learning, going through that. Can you pre-think a lot of that stuff before you actually build it? Because once you have to go back and replug these things back in, it gets more and more expensive and more challenging. Did you think about the user experience, the first time flow, what the existing users are? These first two categories I brought up. At least think through those two, but you might go to the full 4 categories, which is first time user, user in training, user who's just really engaging with it on an ongoing basis, and then your champion power users, right? You're thinking about your user interface, the design, look and feel. So obviously, this is a big place that vibe coding helps significantly. And I want to say this to all of you out here. I really mean this. I don't even know how to get around it, but I know. Including my own site, like including me, I am starting to see the same website over and over and over again. The designs are becoming more and more homogenized, which in some ways is good, like because maybe everybody understands that. But in some ways, it starts to become one big brand melding, there's no uniqueness to it. So if you're not also thinking about the brand experience and how you actually are going to create some kind of unique element to it, that's gonna ultimately impact you in the long run. Maybe in the early stages when you're just prototyping, it's less big of a deal. Like you actually are just focused on the UX and what are the experiences like. But I promise you, if you're not bringing unique things to this, even within the vibe coding, you're going to just be one of those other things. So how do you actually do that? That's important. And then finally, vibe coding preparation. You've got all these elements that you need to kind of pre-think a little bit and put them in. Here's a couple of them, like component organization, if you can think about it, schema being the data schema, the way the data lays out. You don't need to build it, but you might ask AI like, hey, based on everything I'm laying out, what does the schema look like? And understand what you're looking at, or understand how the components are working. You have to think a little bit about development pipelines. In the early vibe coding stage, you're not going to deal with them. But as you go along, you're going to end up in a place where you have things, which I'll cover in the next bit, which are different environments that you might want to think about creating to safely lock the code, things like that. You've got to think about your admin site. So for you to run this, what are the admin tools that you have to actually be there? And then finally, reg flows, marketing attribution. There's a whole bunch of different things that go into this to go beyond just the prototype that you created. Then on the tech side of things, you're really thinking about the tech assessment of like what the system architecture and scale looks like. So this can handle, like what I built right now, how many people could it actually handle? You can actually ask AI and see what it tells you. It's going to give you some scenarios and things like that, but a lot of it has to do with where you're choosing to host things, the kind of the kind of schemes that you have in terms of servers and stuff like that. So if you build something in vibe coding and it's amazing, and then you put it out, I've had this happen a number of times outside of vibe coding and things where we built something that was amazing, and the companies we were working with had the ability to drive a massive amount of people to it very, very fast, and it wasn't set to auto scale, or it wasn't set to do these different things. These are all things that if you're in a market that maybe you're working with a celebrity and one tweet suddenly like puts everything into, you got to pre-think that stuff. And if you're in very early stages, it's less big of a deal, but you still want to think about things like the database and redundancy and performance. Security. So data storage, repository, infrastructure. So like, how are you protecting these different things? Again, the quality of data that you're working with, the sensitivity of the data that you're working with should drive this more than anything. However, even if you're not working with sensitive data, if you have a bunch of security holes and another AI can come in and exploit that, you're gonna see that happening more and more and more. So we have the code review AI, and then we have the QA AI, and probably need a security AI. You're going to have a team, just like you'd have a team of human developers, and then you kind of want people tied to those, but they're all going to kind of be assessing these things. Infrastructure and DevOps. If you're in software development, you know these. If you're not, you probably don't know what this means. This is basically the way in which you ultimately put things through a releasing system, or like you actually, it's a flow in which you put things out into the world. At the most basic level, this is actually quite a complex world, but like at the most basic level, let's say we come up with 3 different environments. We come up with a development environment where you can just do whatever you want over there. So you're just messing around with your, vibe coding. And then you come up with a staging environment, which is like, oh, I got to this version of it that I really like. I want to move it to the staging environment and keep it there. I'm going to leave that set. I don't want to mess with that. I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to start messing with this over here. And then now I want to put those changes into this one over here, right? So you're doing change control, and you're moving only the things you want to move. AI can help you with this in the vibe coding stuff, but you actually want to set up that kind of an environment. And then the final environment, that second environment is for testing, so that you can check it out and make sure that it works as expected, or you have a QA come in and check it out and make sure it works as expected. And then once everybody's good, signed off, you're going to move it into the final environment, which is for your users, the production environment. So this is just an example of some of the DevOps setup, which also includes things like hosting and dealing with kind of complex DNS stuff, a whole bunch of different things. You probably want professional support on this. I would probably think about that when you're ready. Development quality. So code versioning, code quality, I think we talked about this a fair amount. So these are we're going to assess like how good is the actual code. There's a lot of garbage out there at this point, and it's kind of like the writing as well. Like, you can have AI write some great slop for you, and you can adjust it and make it really your own and make it good and stuff like this, or you could just let the slop be out there. These basically the same in this world too. So you just may not know how to read that. That might be your situation. Project management. There's processes around how you actually launch a product. So how do you deal with bugs? How do you deal with creating feature improvements? How do you deal with new features? Where do you put those in a roadmap? How do you think about laying those out? This is all tied to like, how do I actually move this project from the early stages of the life cycle to the later stages and delivering? Again, AI is actually quite good at this one. You can work with it quite a bit here, and some of the project management tools have some really good AI integrations in them at this point. So there's a bunch. I mean, we mostly use Jira at my company, which is a more advanced version, but they do have some good like beginning solutions for people. And then there's the Asanas of the world and Monday.com. There's a bunch of different things that are out there, or ClickUp, I think that's another. But there's a number of good ones. They're all over, and the vibe coding softwares are going to have some of it built in. So I will say though, a little more structure here is going to help you, not just being in a chat, but actually thinking structure on that. And then finally, QA. How are you testing everything? How are you testing your staging? How are you testing your production? So how you need to know every step of the way what's going to break, how's that going to work. There's no 100% guarantee on that stuff, and things break anyway, and things miss. But at the very least, set up QA process. So every time you build something, you're testing it, you feel pretty good about it, you're going to put it out, and then you can handle it if it comes back. So for us, like as part of these assessments, those are good overviews of what we look at in those assessments. And then as part of them, we assess 86 line items on product and go-to-market, which each one of those have like a level of detail that's pretty intense. And then we assess another 102 on the tech side. That's our current list that we've created. We've over the course of time used diligence we use it against our own apps. we think about like all of these things that they go in. If my own app can't match a lot of these, where are we at? And yeah, I'm kind of due for my own assessment here pretty soon too on my own product. So because it's been a little while since I've done it, so I do it with some regularity. I wanted to introduce those like high level concepts to you because you want to think about all of those things. And when you're still prototyping and dreaming and vibe coding, that's phenomenal. And once you lock that down, all of these things start to come into play. The software developers and the product people on this call, they all know this. They're well aware. And they probably can create tools very quickly to get through it. But if you haven't done this stuff, and maybe you're more on the business side, that's great. But you need to generally be aware, which is why we created Vibe Sherpa. Like the whole point of it is to give you a map, like and some guidance on that. And so I'll talk about that in a minute. But like that is, there is a playing field that if you've been in the tech industry for a long time, you fully understand this stuff already. If you haven't been in the tech industry for a long time, welcome. There's actually a lot here. So that is kind of my intro to this amazing thing that we're doing, which is trying to create the thing that's come up for me as somebody who's been working in software for a long time. I've been in the business of software development services for more than a decade now directly, and I've been in the business of product building for 2.5 decades, for a long time. The thing that's coming up for me is that there's so much more opportunity for DIY creation out there now than there ever was before, which is awesome. And I think that's amazing. And that also means that there's changing need in things like product development and UI, UX and stuff like that. It's just, there's not as much of a direct need in it like there used to be, because you can do a lot of it on your own. You actually can do that. However, what is kind of missing is the understanding that like, okay, I do this stuff, but like, what does it actually take to get it from here to all the way to here? I still don't fully understand that or know it. That's where it's helpful to have people who can guide you along. So we wanted to be just like offer some of our services, which we might work with bigger companies to build things and help them. You know, we've built lots of incredible products over the course of time, but I will say, we have a lot of insight, and we've been doing the AI and vibe coding stuff quite a bit. So we thought we'd put together some kind of like guidance process for it. So the stuff that we're thinking about with you guys, especially in the vibe coding stage, is things like product fit refinement, which applies to everybody's, developers included here. MVP breakdown, which applies to everybody. I think probably the developers think about this a little bit more, but it's still there. Technical inventory, like what are you actually using to build this thing, and can that scale? Will that work? And then thinking about just basic tips and tricks as you're moving through the world of vibe launching, which is more than vibe coding. It is actually taking something live. And then optional technical support. So these are things. These are some of the tenets that we wanted to like put out there to offer. And by the way, I'm in the sales part of my pitch. Sorry, you got to listen to it for a second, but I'll be done in a minute and then we'll go into questions. Thanks though for listening to me on this. And I promise you, if you want to work with a really good team that's helping you think through each of these, you would reach out to me and say, hey, we could use a little bit of help in some of these, but I will jam through this. I won't spend a lot of time on it. Product market fit refinement. That's a first step. If you're good on this and you're rocking that out, like we maybe you don't need a lot of help there and you're a really good business person that understands how that works. MVP breakdowns, like you know how to make the decisions on what you should keep in your product and what you shouldn't. The one thing I will say on this that I didn't cover earlier, but I should, AI is the ultimate at overdoing things. Maybe you've experienced this, but it does too much. The cool part is it can do it. The bad part is it's often way too much. It doesn't make sense. So what you're actually trying to do, and Elon Musk puts this really well, he's like builds it up to a point and then he cuts. And he does it on purpose because he's trying to find where the threshold is in the cutting point, to where he knows like, okay, oh, I cut too much. That's actually necessary. Let's put it back. Because if you take out everything that's not necessary, you actually find out like what is the minimum like that you have to have. I myself struggle with this as well, because like once you start working with AI, you're like, oh, I could solve that problem and solve that problem and solve that problem. Suddenly I have a huge product but it's not necessarily solving the specific thing for the people who need. So you have to keep thinking about that over and over again. A lot of that's tied to whether you understand how you're going to message the market once you have it built. Then you have technical inventory. This obviously is a lot of the tech components of this thing, which I strongly suggest if you are not a tech person that you get some human tech help just to be on call, and you work with AI. You still cut a lot of corners and save money and do that. But this is probably where this offering is the strongest, which is just like, we're really good developers. We'll jump in and we know how to guide you through some of this stuff. If you need help, we can help you. If you don't need help on the technical side of things, because you are a developer, maybe it's the GTM stuff that you need help with, and you need to think about the product and retention and things like that. Those are the kind of the differences that we're trying to do. And we have Vibe launching tips and tricks. These are just things that we can bring to the table for you that you might be thinking about. Hopefully you're getting a bunch of them on this call. Obviously, we're all going through this, so we can even share these. There's lots of ideas going on in this, and there's new things being developed all the time. And then finally, just having a support person who is a phone call away that you call and be like, okay, I need dug out of a hole. Can you help? That's kind of the point of this. So I kind of look at it like if you got a robot helping you clean your garage, and the robot starts going kind of berserk and it does all these things, like you actually have to go back and fix something. And that wasn't a great analogy, but you get the idea. So I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to give you like an affordable support system out of the gate that gives you some review of what you've built. It also gives you like very high level feedback on how you fit into the market based on what we're seeing. We have dealt with massive amounts of these, so we really understand and can point out lots of things that you might not be able to see, and the AI might not point out either. We want to offer a couple of hours of advisory help, and obviously, if we're engaged with you, we're gonna help you. And then market readiness checklist, and then some detailed support on how to apply that checklist. So the cool part is I'm going to give you a whole breakdown of like, execute this and you're going to be in a very good position. And that breakdown's not coming from AI. That breakdown's actually coming from companies that do this. A company that does this all the time. And again, like that was pre-written before AI. So, but it is a very helpful thing to have. And then to have some support on how that applies. And that, again, that includes on the GTM side and on the technical side. And then we are releasing a knowledge base that is part of a community tool that I'm about to put out, and I'll let you guys know about. That's in the own product. I'm going to test out my own product that I built and see how it goes. But it is really cool because it will have all of our knowledge in a place, and we'll be able to work with it, and you guys will be able to communicate with each other as a community. So that's my goal, is to bring you all together like that. And then you'll get some tips and tricks and things like that. So this is kind of like our most base level offering that we're doing. And then we're going to give a few additional things to go with it, like application elements to think about, things that there's a variety of just kind of like extra elements that I think are going to be really good, as well as some extra one-on-one support if you sign up in the next little bit. And we put time and effort and care into people. So we're only taking 5 people per week. So if you want to get in on this, please let me know and we'll get you scheduled. But if we get too many people at once, then we might schedule a few weeks out. But if you have something that's like really important to address right now, please keep this in mind. So this particular thing that we're offering is $997, $1,000, but it gives you a lot of individual communication with developers. It establishes a relationship that you can get back to at any given time, and you get a lot of really great content that you can like have access to. Most importantly, it's going to give you guidance and map to how to get to certain places. We have a more advanced version of this, which is basically a lot more support that would run into the 5,000 mark, which if you're actually getting something out into a launch state, you need more advanced things like security, more advanced things like assessments on deep level code reviews, things like that. And you're trying to integrate really complex third-party systems, stuff like that. That's where we can jump in and help you. Again, we can do a little bit of help and teach you how to do it. That's kind of our approach. And then if you want, we can help you build the rest of it. We have solutions for that. That's all in a deck that I have, which I'll send to you if you want it. But the main thing is that there is a place that you can come to ask questions. Hopefully you see we know what we're talking about legitimately. So that's it. That's my pitch. Thank you for listening to the sales pitch part of it. I hope we get to work with some of you over the course of time. And I hope you found some of the information I put out really useful. And now I'm here to just answer some questions, and however I can help, I'm going to try and help as many people as I can on this call. We'll probably go for the next like 45 minutes or so. And so if you have questions, hopefully you've been putting them in the chat, which I've not been checking. But I'm going to open that up so I can check it out real quick. And I'll just call on you as I'm going through it. So if you have something you want to talk about, now's the time to throw it in the chat real quick. Okay. I'm going to go back a little bit. So I'll let people put in newer stuff here. Okay, here we go. Sorry, Walter, I just read your text. ChatGPT said that I have the second longest chat she's ever had while developing my gaming app. That is amazing. So you're spending a lot of time with AI. It's great. Hello, Nor. John just started vibe coding 9 months ago. Okay, so that's good. It's actually quite a bit of time vibe coding. That's good. No coding background. John, how are you doing with the vibe coding so far? Like at 9 months in, do you feel like you know a lot? I'm assuming you do.
I mean, there's a lot that I probably can definitely still learn. What I've done though is I got an algo trading bot. It's actually pretty complex.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's a challenging one.
Yeah, and I know nothing about the stock market, and the level that I got it up to, it's actually quite impressive. But I got that. I got an interactive.
Do you have people using it?
Not yet. I'm still kind of like back testing it and making sure that it's consistently positive. It's pretty close, but I've been doing like 3 months of I integrated an ML into it.
Yeah.
So I've got that all set up. I don't know how I did it.
Have you been able to make money off it?
About 20, 30 bucks a week.
All right.
That's positive is better than nothing. But between that, there's that, and I've got an interactive video software, kind of a chords.
I have a question for you on this. This is actually a good one for to give you some perspective and how to maybe think about this. Okay, so you're a testing opportunity yourself, right? You can put up your own money, find out whether it works or not, see if the algo's functioning properly that the AI is built, and seeing that it can kind of keep up with the data and the information flow, because obviously it's dependent on fast and accurate data, right? So what is the threshold, if anything, that you've determined for yourself around when you know it's ready for someone else to engage with it?
Right now, I think I want it to be probably 3 months of like 1.5% gain per day. And right now I'm about 1.47, and it's almost 5 days consistent out of the 7 days of the week.
Okay.
And I pull, fresh ticker symbols every day. It analyzes everything. It does regressive testing. And I'm also putting in strategies as well. But again, I'm not a stockbroker, so I don't really have that knowledge. Now I need
is this tool built for stockbrokers, or is it built for consumers who want stockbroker capabilities?
It would be a consumer level grade automatic algorithmic trading bot. So literally you just put money into the account and you leave it alone. And then throughout basically the course of 1 year's time, it'll essentially double. So it's about, and I won't get into those numbers because that's all speculative.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's more about how you're thinking about selling to, like, how you're thinking about taking it to the market than it is like the actual application itself, which I'm sure is great. Sounds like you put a lot of work into it. But like, if you put it out to consumers, you obviously need to have a number of people who commit their capital into it, some level of capital. So the more trust you gain, the more capital they put in, right?
Well, I don't manage the money. It's all through Alpaca. So you're pretty much, it's just the interface. So it's just sending the commands back and forth. And Alpaca is it's kind of slow, and it's a slow like server to base it off of. I know I can upgrade to different information sources, and that's where it costs more money. So until I have like some paid users that are subscribing, right now it's a bit sluggish, but it's still performing.
Mhm. Okay. So have you thought about like have you done a marketing page for this?
That's kind of why I'm here, is because that's the one area that I haven't put a lot of thought into.
Mhm.
So that's where I was trying to, gain something from this, and I certainly I've gained quite a bit. I've been to one of your other presentations, and this is pretty much the same one, but I enjoy listening to it, and you have a lot of good insight. As far as
Thank you.
putting together a marketing campaign, I've got this, I've got like 4 others that one of them's already in test flight, another one I'm about to put up into test flight.
Okay.
And that's more of like an interactive video, human-centered training software. So that's a bit more complex too. So it's going to take a little more time and testing. But as far as marketing, they all need marketing. They all need to kind of develop that chunk of, getting this, out in the public. And that's what I haven't really done yet.
Yeah, I would say like there's obviously lots of different financial products that people consider out there. But to me it sounds like almost like a staking kind of environment that you're trying to set up. So how you communicate that out to the right people becomes a really central part of this thing even having any traction, especially when you're trying to build trust with people. So I would definitely find people you're close to. This is my one piece of advice right now. You're going to find people that you're close to that are willing to do it. And that's good. You put them in one category. They're an alpha testing category. Right? That's it. But the people you're really after are people you don't know. And you're saying, hey, is this interesting enough of a proposition for you to be willing to take a risk on it for X period of time? Right? It's kind of similar to and you might think about it like this too. In like workout campaigns, a lot of times they're like they're promoting like how much change happened with one person or for a person from one body type to another body type, and then you can physically see the change. That's the same basic thing that you're kind of, because you're doing it over the course of time. So you're saying your real values over the course of time. Think about how you create those examples, and if you can get some people to come in and test with those examples.
Yeah, I mean, to have, real world, usage and testing and results to be able to,
I think it'd be almost a requirement. Yeah.
Agree. Yeah, I mean, like with the interactive video one, I've got like 3 or 4 people that are actually kind of testing it, and they're, making sure all the AI editing and processing is working how it's supposed to, and how it puts things together, pulls it apart, based upon your actions and movements. And so far, like, I've only had like a couple of weeks of doing that, and they're like, wow, this is pretty cool. And it's not so much you're paying to gain, like, I guess, like,
Well,
I'm not like marketing anything. I'm sorry, say that again.
no, it's okay. I'm gonna keep moving through because I know there's a lot of stuff in here, but I just want to offer some of that, and you and I can keep connecting about it. I'd love to. Like, it sounds like a cool product, but I have a lot of thoughts for you on it.
Agree. I don't want to keep everybody. Yep, I agree.
No worries.
Thank you for listening, and we'll talk a bit more,
Totally.
at a later time. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, man, or meet you again. Frederick, how are you there? Are you still around?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, how you doing? How's it been going? You got it
all good.
roasted?
All good.
Some budget stuff?
Yes.
So
Before
you go,
it's
actually I meant to ask
yes.
Real quick. Okay. I meant to actually ask Jeff this last, but I kind of got an idea from it. But for you, Frederick, real quick, when you gave this score of 1 to 10, what did you score yourself?
When you mentioned the scoring system, I was not checking what was the question. So that's why I didn't answer on the scoring system.
Okay, here's the question. 1 being you're brand new to vibe coding, you've never experienced it, and you're just here to learn. 10 being you're a software developer that knows exactly what they're doing to build a piece of software without vibe coding. Where would you rank yourself?
A 9.
A 9. Okay, so you're a developer.
Yes.
You're close to develop. Okay, got it. Okay, great. Okay, so with that in mind, you created this app called Roasted Budget and Business, right?
Correct.
Awesome. You want to tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So Roasted is a personal. It started as a personal finance exclusive. AI good about AI is a pattern identification. In finances is pretty much like a map. So if you follow good path, you end up in the good side. If you follow the negative path, you pretty much goes negative most of the time. So if I was able to find the process, was I'm able to find a way to properly help people in their finances so they understand and they get aware of what they are doing, then they can take better decisions, or at least I can try to steer them in the best way possible. That's the reason why it is meant for people who don't know how to budget properly.
Huh?
So
Okay. That sounds like a really cool app. What would you say, where are you at in the releasing process of this right now? Have you launched it, or are you just beta testing? What are you doing with it? Oh, it's a cliffhanger. I cannot hear you. I don't know if you just Leo,
hello,
you there?
hello.
Hi, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Where
Can you
are
hear
you
me?
at in this process in terms of releasing and launching?
It is already live on the App Store.
Is it on the App Store? Okay, cool. And then how are you doing with
Yes.
acquisition?
So it was recently released to the App Store. I still have no users.
Okay, right. So what step are you what are you thinking about doing right now, or what's your kind of biggest challenge at the moment you're at in this moment?
The marketing side of it.
Okay. So it's just purely an acquisition thing. Do you feel like you've tested enough of
Correct.
the product and retention side of it? So if you do pay to acquire users, that you have a good feeling they're going to be able to use the app exactly how you want them to?
Yes, I've done enough testing as a user in TestFlight. I use it myself. Um, it does out of bank out of bank syncing with Plaid as a backend,
Yep.
and I am currently checking the Apple Card as well because I was approved for the finance
Apple
kit
Pay.
recently,
Yeah.
and yes, because Plaid is not does not work with Apple, so the Apple Card does not get automatically
Well,
tracked
I
unless
know
you do
you're
have the finance kit.
yeah. I know you're technically going to be able to figure all this out. I have no question about that. That's your skill. But like, in terms
Yeah,
of like how you like, what is a challenge around getting 1,000 users for you?
that's the thing I don't know because marketing has never been my thing.
Right. Yeah, I know. This is kind. This is this is kind of that spot I was talking about
Mm-hmm.
first. So I think have you put any kind of a budget aside to actually go test any kind of like advertising or anything like that?
Not at all.
No. Okay. So you got to get basically I look at all of the GTM stuff
Mm-hmm.
kind of like a fire is the best way to put it. So you're at the stage of like you're flicking the flint to try and get the fire going, right? And you don't quite have a
Correct.
spark yet, right? And ultimately
Mm-hmm.
spark, you might be able to cultivate it to just have enough fire to like create some smoke and maybe a little bit of fire underneath, and then you build that until you can actually release a full-blown forest fire, right? Like ideally. And but going from the spark onto the actual kindling the kindling is one of the biggest challenges of the entire thing. I would say at this point, like uh, if you have people that need to solve budget problems, that you're really thinking about how to get into the arena of maybe some affiliates. Like I would, before I spend a ton of money on ads, are there a handful of affiliates that can come in and support this and go, hey, this looks like a really useful thing that they could recommend to the people that they're working with? that do budgeting, like have budgeting challenges. Have you tried talking
Uh,
to people?
no, but now that you mentioned that, it does ring the bell.
Yeah, because I think you have a possibility of creating a pretty cool affiliate network on something like this. That might take some time and effort to build, but at the very least, you can test that by going to these people who if they can bring tools to their own clients that benefit from using it, it makes them look good, it makes them feel smart, and they might want to be involved in it in some way or another. So you might think about, can you cultivate a small little initial army of those, of 10, 15 of those people? And by connecting with one of those people, you connect out to 20 or 30 other people. So if I didn't have a lot of money to do, direct one-to-one advertising in Meta or Google, I might go that route, and then see how that goes. And are they willing to recommend it? Because if they're not, you're going to find out some holes that you didn't see in it before, and you're going to figure out can I get them to recommend it? Because if they can, then A, if you put it in front of people, it's really useful, and B, you might have a big reach out to do of something that creates layers of recommendation to it versus just buying one-to-one ads and trying to acquire a user for $3 an install, and realizing that like you actually, your CLV is not high enough for that. So I would recommend maybe moving somewhere in that direction and trying that out and see how it goes, and see if you can inspire some of those people to do this and work with those kind of clients.
I love the idea.
Yeah. Nice. Well, nice to meet you. If you want to talk more about it, let me know. Happy to jump in. I have a million ideas in this area.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Jody, details on compliance. Oh, I like that. Yes, compliance is one of my favorite. Yeah, insurance, you're right. Okay, Jody, are you available? You sound like you know this area. I like it. And Veronica, actually, both of you guys, I know you're. So Veronica, you're actually being challenged with compliance. If either of you are available and can chat, I would love to. Nope, I lose you. All right, I'll move on. That's a good topic. Just at a high level related to compliance, though, a number of industries have very specific compliance. You need to have some legal support going on. You obviously can do a lot with AI to get basic understandings of these things, but there can be some very nuanced elements of compliance. If you know you're in those arenas, you probably already know this. That being said, no matter what you're doing, I would still check and make sure that there's not any unforeseen compliance elements. So that is part of that team I was talking about putting together is a legal person. So you need to make sure that you have a legal and compliance person. And there's some good compliance tools that are out there too that you might want to check out. And I can try and provide a list later if you need it. But at the very least, ask your AI, is the thing I'm creating, do I need to take into consideration certain compliance elements within the territory that I'm planning to sell in? And if you're planning to sell worldwide, you need to be very clear that you're going to do that. And whatever app store you put it out into may have different compliance requirements because of the locations, things like that, on a level, whatever industry you're putting it out to. So compliance is worth looking into, and at least like getting a conversation with AI going so you understand the impact. Mm-hmm. Playing for project man. Oh, self-host playing for project man. Okay. Frederick, that sounds like what we're doing. Okay, Lucy, can you take me from idea to prototype, development, and launching? Yes, I can. That is something I do. Are you here, Lucy? Can you talk? And you look like you're here. Okay. I'm just going to answer your question. If you'd like to jump in, I'd love to talk to you a little bit.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, hi. How's it going? Good to see you.
Good. I'm sorry. I was trying to find the mic.
No, that's cool. I totally get it.
Yes.
So were you asking me if I'm capable and my company's capable, or are you just asking to hear how that works?
Both. I've been working on my idea. I've done a lot of research, and I'm very new at this, but I feel like I've done a little bit of progress creating some of the the sequence of my idea, but then I'm stuck with the actual developing, you know.
So you remember the rating system I've been giving? Would you rate
Yes.
yourself kind of in the lower range? What number would you?
Yes, I'm like about 2, 3, you
Two, three.
know. Yeah,
So,
I've done a little bit. I understand what it is. I understand how to go about it, but I haven't really dived into it, 100%.
that makes sense. What vibe coding platform have you been trying to use?
Well, I've done a lot of things with Claude and,
Okay.
basically Claude.
Yeah, Cloud Code. Okay, great.
Yes.
And how's that been for you? Like, what are some of the things that you're running into on that front?
Um, well, just trying to figure it all out together. I mean, trying to see where my idea fits and what is my minimum, that I need to launch, and then work with that, not go too crazy, try to do too much, and then just start putting it all together.
Okay. And do you feel like can you see the product already, or are you still kind of figuring out what the product is?
No, I see the product. Yes.
You see the product. And have you done the marketing webpage like I've talked about, like, or tried to create a little marketing website for it?
I'm working on the website right now. I've done some social media already,
Okay.
not much. But then I go back to, okay, how much marketing do I do before I'm ready to start developing this and then ready to launch?
This is a really good question, actually. This is
Hmm.
an excellent question. And a lot of people on this call are already deep into this. So um, it it still might be relevant though to go back and look. And I take this into consideration myself. A big part of what's happening in the change in software development, which you're very much a part of, is that there's a shift from how do I get this thing built to how do I distribute this thing, right? Because getting it built's getting easier and less expensive. The bigger question is how do I distribute this? And by that I don't necessarily mean how do I sell it and get it out there, but like how do I actually create avenues of engagement and awareness and things that may or may not deal with direct money, but that distribution question ultimately comes down to, is there a relevant idea to distribute? And a lot of people skip this part in the early going, and you're trying to figure out signals for how you tell what that is going to be. So one example of how you might do that is begin to build a social community around it that is actually trying to deal in the world that it is, and you actually help build them up so they're actually starting to ask questions around what they're trying to figure out and do. And then you're going to start asking them as you get into it, you're going to start asking them, hey, the product launch formula. If you get a chance to read it, it's a really good book by Jeff. I forget his name. I'm sure people have read it on here.
The product launch formula.
Yeah, it's an old book, but it still applies.
Okay.
But what he recommends is that you think about these different launch things. And over the course of time, I've seen a lot of different versions of it, or versions of something like this being developed. And I will say, no matter what, you're trying to understand the problem that you're solving for a particular group or a community, right? So can you get that group or community together, even in smaller areas and aspects of it, and begin to cultivate connection and communication between them, so that especially you haven't gone too deep into the actual creation of it. The biggest thing you're trying to do right now is ask the question of like, is the thing that I'm thinking of in my mind actually the thing that they need? And so I believe that the people who would use this are this particular group. So let's say it's a recipe, or it's a cooking app. Okay, I don't know. And your main audience are French food fans. Okay, you can create a audience of people that are really into Italian food. You can create an audience of people that are really into into like hamburgers and fries, right? But you specifically want the French food audience, right? That's what you're after, because there's something about French food that requires using this app because of the way it's cooked or the way it's happening. And can you cultivate that audience of talking to them about that particular thing, and then begin to with inquiry ask them, what are you missing in this area, right? So part of that's creating the community. part of that. And this is a big thing that you definitely can do even without. So one of the first things you might think about developing is less the app itself and more like, do you have a tool that can cultivate community so that you have the distribution conversations that you can have beginning to go ongoing and ongoing and ongoing. You're just going to leverage those more and more and more. So so in that book I mentioned, he talks about them as different product launches. I actually just see it as iteration of launching. And back in the day, we would build a foundational product and then we'd put out press releases around, we're announcing this thing, we're announcing this thing, right? In today's world, it's all kind of like much more micro. So you're trying to get these communities of people who are interested in the specific thing that you're trying to help them with, which it sounds like you have some ideas around that. And how do you create a little bit of a tool for them to engage on a regular basis or use one of the social tools or things like that out there and go after that problem at this stage so that before you really go too deep into the development of it or get too locked in on an idea, that you actually know there's people that need it. That might be something you think about doing early on.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I've done some of that. I've done some of that with social media,
Okay.
some groups, that I've been able to join related to the idea and the pain points that, that I'm trying to address with this app. So I do believe that, I found something that is there's already other similar apps that have been very successful, but I'm actually adding some other components to the app the other ones don't have that I think are maybe I may be hitting something that is a big need within that community. And I'm talking about the sleep. I'm working with the sleep people that have issues with sleep,
Huh?
but that I'm doing it in a way that is not so much giving them sounds or meditation or breathing. This is more about helping them create habits. So it's more like a rhythm coach that is with the sleeping. But I'm also adding a coach persona, an avatar persona that is going to be coaching the users to work with this rhythm a coaching, but also I'm looping it together with the morning. So it's night. It's that
How will they know it works if you build that?
okay? How will they know the user will know?
Yeah, if I was assessing
Okay,
whether
so it's more personalized. So when the user comes into the app, the user is going to be able to answer some questions,
Mhm.
and the coach is going to the app, which is a coach, an avatar, is going to work with that individual person and see whether problems are, so with through a questionnaire, series of questions, they're going to be able to assign them a particular, protocol to work with them with their sleeping habits.
Okay, all right.
So it's more personalized.
So
Now,
yeah, so
obviously,
there's a human component tied into
yeah,
it.
so obviously, as the users start using the application, I will be able to learn more about, their particular needs, things that I need to include or add to the protocols. But I'm having right now I have at least eh, like about four different not protocols, because the protocols and then you have the tools to each protocol.
Mhm.
Um, and so they about four protocols, and then
Well,
if they
so before we go too deep, just because I want to make sure I can cover a lot of different people.
yeah.
Um, so it sounds like you've got a lot of good insight of
Yeah.
things that you want to do. Do you feel like this kind of like social following that you're building and things like that, have they had a voice in it and been able to give you feedback on just like that protocol, that thing?
Yes, I've got feedback,
Mhm.
some validation, um, but I have not gone as deep and further to explain every detail of what the app offers, because I'm just really researching, getting started, and then I go back to, okay, how do I build this? How do I put it out there to start getting feedback and really launch it to get to gain that feedback and be able to add more features that are going to be, based on what the users are saying.
Cool. Well, I'd love to talk to you more about it. We can maybe
Yeah.
keep chatting offline, but like it sounds like a really cool world. And I've built some things like this, so I give you some perspective on what that looks like as you're trying to do behavioral adjustments with people, because that's kind of the arena you're in. But it's really cool, and I wish you lots of luck. And
Thank you.
And go help. I need it myself, so go help people sleep. All right,
Yes.
thanks. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah. Tanita, I've met the milestone of getting my first Vibe coded app on the Google Play Store. Great, cool, in the App Store. You want to go viral. That makes sense. Are you still here?
Yes, if you can hear me, it's raining and I've stopped so I can talk with you. So my apologies that I'm not live with you,
No
but
worries.
if you can hear me, I'm here with you here.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you.
Same to you.
So, so viral, like going viral. So let me ask you this: where are you at in the scale, 1 to 10?
That's the part I missed. I came in at about 5:30.
Okay, cool. So
Mhm.
the question is, 1 being you're brand new to vibe coding and or any kind of coding, and 10 being you are a software developer and skill set and or you've built products and launched them. Where do you live in that, do you think?
Well, I can say I started at a 1 because
Uh-huh.
this was my first. I have no software background. And I started as a 1 with vibe coding. This was my first project,
Right.
but doing this project over a period, and I would say 6 months, I
Mhm.
consider myself probably a 7 now.
Nice. That's great. Yeah,
Um,
you really learned a lot. Yeah, that's huge.
yeah,
Okay,
I mean it.
and how are you feeling in terms of the go to market stuff? You've gotten in the store, and how are you doing in terms of beginning to aggregate any audience?
Uh, I've I've actually been entertaining several options.
Okay.
One, do should I start on a regional, more local regional way?
Mhm.
Because I just have this fear of just putting something out there nationwide or globally.
That makes sense.
And I still got, you still got some challenges that may come up, things that you just never know until it's out there. Even though I've tested it, I've actually have users and that have downloaded. Um, and it seems to be going pretty good. I haven't had a broken code at all or anything.
One
So,
of the things you got to keep an eye on in that is, like, especially
mhm.
if you want to go viral, is something called load testing. I don't know if you've heard of this or not.
Okay.
But right now you've tested it to a small group, right? So you kind of know it can infrastructurally stand up to a handful of people that are engaging with it. There are
Mhm.
tools out there though that can actually formally test load. So if I jumped the product from, and ideally you're incrementally growing, but it doesn't always work like that, especially if you're asking a question about virality.
Mhm.
If you jumped from 100 users up to 100,000 users really fast, would your app survive it? Would the infrastructure and the backend survive it? Do you
Mhm.
have things where the code's going to get locked up in requests, and just you're going to drop everybody, and suddenly everyone goes from loving your app to hating your app? These are you don't have to think about just yet or right now at this exact moment, or maybe you do. I don't know because you're in the store. But I would definitely ask the question of, like, your AI before we get into your actual question. Ask the AI, like, how much load do you believe it could handle, just so you could see what AI thinks. I don't think it's going to tell you the truth, but it's going to tell you what
Mhm.
it thinks. And then B, what load testing tools would you suggest that I use for this particular thing, and whatever it is, and you'll want to actually see if you can get a little bit of testing, uh, obviously inexpensively, to get an idea about how many users it could probably withstand. If it could withstand a fair amount and you feel okay about that, then let's go to the viral question. Because if you're going to spend time and effort to try and make it viral, that means you're going to try and put a lot of people onto it very quickly. And this is one of the challenging spots of releasing an app and putting it out there. We built we built a K-pop app a bunch of years ago, for, it was actually a pretty big company. So, like, we knew that there was going to be some volume. We knew they had they own one of the biggest K-pop populations of fans in the world, and it turned out to be true. And we went in one day from I think it was a live video app, which at the time was a little more, it wasn't quite as capable as a lot of the tools that are out there now. But and we were on an Amazon service. Once we put real scale against it, we couldn't handle it up to a certain point. We just could see it. And we ended up installing an auto scaling tool really, really fast. Technically all of that, like I won't get into the technical aspects of it, but on the business aspects of it, it is really important that if you begin going after the question of virality, you're really going into the question of like, what is the quotient of sharing that's going to happen? So I have one user, and if I acquire one user, I can expect that one user to have a greater quotient of sharing that of 1-to-1. So it should be above 1-to-1. It should be like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So and maybe, I mean, if it goes crazy, maybe it's like every user you put in, you get 2 or 6 or 7, you know. And there are apps that do that periodically. If you're not fully ready for that yet, I think the regional like approach, it might be a good testing ground for it, to see what the infrastructure of the app can handle, and what the infrastructure of the business idea can handle, because maybe there's elements of it that also could get caught up in that process too. I really like, if you're able to do local, you're able to do small community, just like I was talking about with Lucy a second ago. How can you bring it into a smaller group of people, really let it run on that and see how it goes, and then try and expand that out, ideally vertically as much as possible. And sometimes you just want to get it out to as many people as possible. If you are going to really go for virality, and you're going to do things like get influencers involved, or you're going to get some kind of thing going that could, like, you go to sleep one night, you wake up the next day, and it's out to many, many people. You just got to make sure that you could handle basic scale if you do it.
I like the suggestion of asking AI about the load, because I think that'll definitely answer my question. Like you said, to do it regional. There are two ideas that I actually had, is to do kind of like some in-person sessions with the innovative tech hubs.
Definitely do that. Definitely do it.
And then the second thing, I was actually wanting to connect with movie theater ads, because that's very locally and regionally based, where everybody can see it, you know, for moviegoers.
Well,
So that was a
just remember though, you can, I don't know how broad your app is, like in terms, but a lot of times that those ads are really good. And again, like I'm not going to get into a ton of ad targeting perspective here, but in general, you can spend money there and get a lot of very mixed results. So if you're going to do something like that, you need to very clearly understand who your market is, and that you have some way to segment out that market with whatever data comes back from the people. Because otherwise you just have a bunch of people watching this thing. And unless you have a super broad application like a Facebook, I don't, you know, it could be very deceiving in terms of what you're trying to, the information, the data you need to get back from the advertising.
I can understand that, because that's essentially what I want, is some data, you know, with it, so I can understand if I went with a Facebook at a cheaper price than movie ads, hey, I can reach more people at a lower cost and get data from it too. So
Yeah.
yes, targeting. Okay.
Stefan, I mean,
Well,
you can call the movie theaters and ask them and say, how would I get segmented data of how this, obviously with the movies, what you do know is the movie they're watching, right? So you can lead it back to that. So that the segmentation of that movie audience into the segmentation of your advertising could be useful. And if they can provide that back to you, maybe that's good. Maybe that's a good set of data.
okay. That's a good question to ask, if they can do it.
Yep.
So yeah.
Well,
Okay.
good
Well,
luck.
those are some great
Give me a shout if you need anything further, but I hope you rock it out, and I'm interested to hear how it goes.
All right. Sounds awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Okay. Ronald gave some advice there. That's cool. you guys are really beyond my team of one, working full time. Obsessed. Thanks for the time. Okay, cool. Hopefully, Mike, you found some good information in here. Canon, marketing and product starts with the elevator pitch. Yes. You've got 30 seconds to wow me about it, or I'm out the door. Refine the pitch, be excited to share with everyone, be sure to have a landing page and offer supporting material. I fully agree. And actually, this whole space is a great space for that marketing pitch to be tested, right? Or sorry, the elevator pitch to be tested. Because if you can deliver that message clearly and succinctly, and you practice it. The other thing too is that you know, one of the things you do is you work out that elevator pitch very early in your product development, like right around like what I was suggesting with the marketing page, that you get it down to just a single sentence, you can nail it, and then you stand in front of a mirror and practice it for 3 hours, 2 hours. You as a CEO need to be able to say that thing with crisp, absolute clarity, so there's no question about it. And I would recommend just over and over and over again hitting your elevator pitch, and then as it evolves, you can change it, but treat it as something that's you, when you're out in public, you're going to talk about it all the time. You don't know who's gonna know it and hear it and be able to respond. So just refinement. Yeah, Canon, I agree. I think that's good advice there. Okay, JHNB. You know, looks like my challenge. Okay, so they said, I don't know if you're still on here or not, but here, JHNB. Okay, well, I'm gonna try.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, now I can. Yeah, cool. Yeah, nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you, Sam.
Okay, so you said I've designed and built a mobile app. Great. So it's live in the Google Play Store that helps families coordinate care for aging parents. Thank you. It's a very, very helpful thing to bring to society. I'm now in the validation phase, running user research to confirm the real pain point and audience before building further and finding GTM. Okay, awesome. Okay, sounds good. I like that so far. So the challenge: reaching out to the right people at scale, both to validate the problem, the research, recruit. Okay, got it. For any early solo founder validating a global emotionally sensitive problem like this. Yes. What are the most effective ways to engage the right audience? And how would you sequence validation, testing, and go to market? Well, this is a fantastic question. Thanks for asking this. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I actually have been, in the last year, I've been a part of a product that's in this world. So I actually know, I know exactly what you're up against. And it's a very interesting one. I would, for this particular case though, I want to go back to what you said here in the beginning of it. So it's an app on Google Play that helps families coordinate care, right? So there's a coordination part that families, although I think we need to get more specific about families, for aging parents. So that makes sense. They live far away from. I have this exact problem. Yeah, so some stuff I've been working on, and we thought about this too. So the families, who in the families have you determined that it's actually most useful with?
I can hear that, sorry. Please.
Oh no, you said what you wrote was that the app is designed to help families coordinate care from aging parents they live far away from. When you say families, are you talking about their children? Are you talking about their
they just like I stated in the question, the app is meant for the children to coordinate care for aging parents or their loved one. For example, if there are a lot of instances in that regard whereby we have a lot of children not living with their parents right now. Maybe as a result of big distance, as a result of jobs, as a result of education. I mean, studies, as a result of all sorts of factors might lead to some kind of distance between them and their parents. So this app will help them to coordinate the care for their aging parents. For example, in that based on the instances I gave now. So wherever they are, they will be able to coordinate the care for their parents wherever they, I mean, from across different locations that they have. So currently the app has been built, and just like I stated in the question, I need at the place of validation, then reaching out to the right audience. So
Yeah, I mean, I think if I understood you correctly, I didn't. Some of it was a little hard to hear you on some of it, but I'm assuming that in that validation, you are getting you're getting an understanding of like the challenge of the audience. The thing that's coming up for me about this though is that it's a very broad audience again, right? So it's another case where like even like how you help a parent who lives an hour away versus how you might help a parent that lives, you know, a 10-hour plane flight away or 20-hour plane flight away, right? Those might be very different things. And so narrowing down your avatar and your ICP to like get to a solution to a real you know, like a real specific challenge that you want to solve and then show the results of the solving of that challenge, I think would be extremely useful. So for instance, like would this deal with people who are out like in different countries than one another versus would it deal with people that are within the same within the same, you know, state as one another, or would it be like really closing in on like what I have now? And maybe you've done this to some degree, but have you already built the app real quick? You did, yeah, it's on Android. So you also have a challenge too of like it's only going to service people who are using Android OS, correct?
yeah, currently it's still, I already deployed it on Android currently.
And okay, and do you have an iOS app as well?
That is current. Is still in pipeline. I plan to work on that, but I I actually wanted to have like a concrete validation on what I've been built so far before finally launching it into the iOS and even.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking this is because I think unless you narrow down your focus, and if you haven't already, then you probably should take time to do this. Whatever you're getting validation on could easily be the wrong thing.
Okay. Let me just try to be more descriptive about my explanation. Okay. The mobile app it helps family coordinate care for aging parents or loved ones, especially where they can't always be near them. So there are features like login check-ins, like medications, uh, task, uh, and then webbing updates in one shared private care circle. I created like a care circle unit in the app. So like whereby families, wherever they are, they can stay informed. And currently, it's a working Android app. So on a live backend, um, and with early testers actually, and the landing page like a marketing page, and most importantly, I'm currently the active user.
Okay.
I'm currently the active user now. So and some other friends of mine that are currently still making use of the app. So,
yeah, I would if you haven't already, I just would like really lay out an avatar breakdown and work with AI on this to say who's this most useful for within this large group of parents who have aging parents or kids that have aging parents, right? I need to narrow that down to specific use cases of those people and keep going deeper and deeper and deeper. Like if you go 3 layers deep, go 4 more layers deep. Don't at this stage, do not stand for very, very broad audiences. Okay. And then once you have that tight perspective, on who this really helps, whatever approach you've taken on this, who it really helps, and it's like down, 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 then go find those people and do validation with them. If you don't validate with them, you probably are going to get answers that take you down a path that are going to lead you to mistakes later. So
Okay.
I would say reaching out at the right people at scale. I would actually scale down right now. That I would go the opposite way as to where you're at currently. So you ultimately are only going to get to scale once you've shrunk down to the most powerful component of what the product is, which applies to specific people in specific ways. Now, once you've applied that there once, who else does that also apply to? This and this and this, right? But that I would kind of not worry about scale right now. I would more worry about like specific ICP connect. So you're on a product market fit, search, but don't overdo the scope of the audience. Once you validated, expand, but validate with a lot of detail. All right. Give me a shout if you want to talk more about that. But I would just keep working on your avatar and make sure that you really understand it. Okay, nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, I'm interested in talking to someone in your organization about monetization and final steps necessary to launch. Okay, Walter, let's talk. I'll reach out to you. Can you test me, Ronald Tupas? Can you test me? Yeah. What kind of test? Ronald? The pitch.
Hey, Ryan. Sorry. Yeah, the pitch, man. Sorry.
You gonna practice your pitch on me?
Yeah, man. Also, I need to ask another question after that.
Sure. Okay. Give me your elevator pitch.
Okay, so I made an app that's a clone of WhisperFlow. Talks to your Mac. It has AI cleanup, but unlike WhisperFlow, everything's local to your Mac. Nothing escapes. It's 100% private. It does translations for you too.
What if people don't know what I happen to use WhisperFlow, so I know what it is. But what if people don't know what WhisperFlow is?
Okay, so WhisperFlow is like a dictation app. So I made an app.
Try it again without any.
Gotcha. I'm just gonna show my screen so you can see me too. So I made an app that is a dictation app for the Mac, where you can dictate anything inside your Mac: Word, Excel, websites, files, vibe coding, and you don't have to type anything because your brain moves faster than typing. So you just say it, and then it types automatically for you. Unlike the competition, mine is local to your computer. It doesn't go to the shared web. Nobody else gets your information. And I also have AI cleanup, which stops the nonsense talk. So it concise everything if you want it. If you want it verbatim, it's good too. It can translate to different languages if you want it, and it's 100% offline.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay. So it went a little longer than the elevator pitch.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It was like more of a skyrise elevator, but it's cool. It's good. My thing though, first of all, about the app itself, are you saying it's a small language model that lives on your computer, or are you using APIs for the AI?
I'm using a small language computer, or I don't understand what you're saying because I just recently vibe coded, but it's just staying in the computer, and okay. I don't like this.
This would be a good example of something that you're going to want to go very carefully double check, because given what you're telling me, more than likely what you're saying is not true, and you may not realize it's not true. So chances are you're using public AI APIs, and if that's the case, then you definitely don't want to make the promise that you're making. That being said, perhaps I don't know much about it, but it's worth looking at. Let's move past that for a second. I strongly suggest you go check that out. So if that is your main differentiator and your main claim, that you're installing a small language model or like a local language model that like does not leverage the APIs, right?
Okay. I think so, yeah, because I don't need internet for it to work.
Still double check.
I still need to double check, but yeah, thank you for
Yep.
that. Thank you for
Yep. And then, okay, so cool. Now, on the pitch itself, how do you think it went?
I don't know. It's the first time I pitch. I'm scared.
I would say
I never thought about pitching it at all.
I would say like the biggest thing is this is like that you kind of got down to what it was pretty quickly, which is helpful, a dictation app that that you don't have to type anything and you get it in. But bye Lucy. But the thing I would say is like the real pitch is how it helps them, right?
Gotcha.
How is it going to change our lives? That's what they're, it's like,
gotcha.
This app is going to allow you to stop using your keyboard and make life so much better. I think like we end up pitching features and we end up pitching like what it can do, but most everybody's not interested in that. What they're interested in is the result of what it can do. So that's the thing I would keep like shifting towards thinking about and keep making an adjustment, because solving the problems is relevant and you do need to have that in there, but like leading to an outcome that like is exciting for them and really that's what everybody's looking to have happen. And in the pitch it has to be in there. Okay.
Awesome.
And just keep shrinking it down, get in front of the mirror and just practice. Like once you know what that is and you're like, cool, it uses dictation. You can dictate anything. So your life can change like, but what's your question that you wanted to ask?
So interestingly enough, when you were making your offer, I got locked out of my room. The battery so like I totally missed the whole thing.
Oh, that's cool. I'll send that to you later and you can check it out. I'm sure everybody would love to hear it again. They're dying to, but I'll do that offline with you. I'll just shoot it over to you. You got it, no problem.
All right.
But yeah, it sounds like you got a cool product, and it's pretty cool. You did all that with Vibe Code, huh? You got that.
I did. I got like 8 more products that I'm doing, and then that was just like the simple that's on the market right now.
Oh yeah.
But I got an education thing that I've been like ever since I learned.
Ronald, which one's gonna win? Do you know what I mean?
Which one's gonna win? I think I did think the education's gonna win.
You do? Nice. Okay.
Because there's a need. I was a teacher, so
Yep.
there's a need for that.
I agree with home said cash buyers. I like your energy too, Ron.
Thank you.
That's great, man. Keep plugging away on it. Sounds good.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you, man.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Riches are in the niches. That is exactly right. All right. Anybody else want to ask a question? Otherwise, I'm going to wrap up, let you guys all go have a great night. And I will reach out to you and check in. And if you want to work together, you want to join a community that we stay involved with, or you want to come back to this next week and check it out again and ask questions, then you can. It's a really, I hope this was useful for you and you enjoyed it. And if you need anything, reach out. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.